Hi, my name is Joseph Alai. Welcome to my channel. And today I want to talk about my 5 top manifestation decisions that I've ever made and basically what they've done to change my life. And they're essentially the recommendations that I would suggest to any person. But in my case, it is the reason why I am where I am today. So, the reason I bring this up is because earlier I was having a conversation with one of my friends and talking about what brought us here. What was my mindset that led me to believe or led me to open my eyes or my mind to allow the possibility of manifesting in my life? And so we had a discussion, and I told him a little bit about the last decade of my life. He told me a little bit about why he was listening to me in the first place, what allowed him to hear me. And so I think it's important to kind of note that I wasn't always here where I am. And in fact, I was an abysmal failure at manifesting from the beginning. And so I want to tell you about what I've done and what decisions I've made that helped me the most throughout the journey. So if you have not done so already, hit the like button. It does something with the YouTube algorithm, which it helps other people who would not normally be able to see this video. Also, hit the subscribe button if you want more laser-targeted, systematic methodology on exactly how to manifest anything that you want in a predictable way. So let's jump right into it then. So I'll start with number 5. Number 5, the 5th most important thing that I've ever done or decision that I've ever made with manifesting is to understand that people are just not going to believe me. So this has serious implications to it. This decision to understand that people are just not going to believe in manifesting. They're going to think that I'm a liar, or they're going to think that I'm crazy. I have to look at it from the perspective of how I used to look at the world. So for me, when I first started manifesting, actually before I have ever heard of manifesting, which by the way was through the Bible about 10 years ago, a little under 10 years ago now, there was no chance I was ever going to believe in manifesting. Zero chance. And in fact, I had spent years contemplating things slightly, not too deeply, of course, but before, and how, I was a scientist. I studied physics and mathematics, and I was a man of science, a man of reason or logic. I was very intelligent, so to speak, but book smart. And so to tell me that manifesting was true, that I was creating my experience, that this whole vast experience is a manifestation of all of my thoughts, ideas, moods, and assumptions, there was no shot. There was no shot. And so the thing about beliefs is that people protect their beliefs with their life. The ego is built in such a way that it will literally defend their beliefs with their life, with its life, with the ego's life. So, and on the other hand, it was a way that I used to try to build my own belief, was by trying to tell people what I had done so that I could get that, validation. So in the end, I had found, so for me, it had been over almost 9 years, well, probably 7 years of pain and suffering, of trying to teach people, trying to prove it to people, trying to show people. So one of the best decisions I ever made was to finally understand that no one will believe me, most likely, right? Very few people will ever believe. And there's a quote in the Bible that says, "Don't throw pearls to the swine." Now, I think that's a little harsh, but the predicate of that verse is that they will be stomped on and then you will also be injured. That's what I have found. We injure ourselves. I injure myself for trying to convince other people. So the best alternative to that is to allow people to come to me. And that's what I do through my channel. And alongside that, what I have learned is the most effective way to teach is to only teach from my experience. And so I will never teach a thing that I have not personally experienced. If I do, I will mention that. And so that in and of itself allows me to, when I do speak, I keep things within the confines of my own experience, which is grand. I have experience of amazing, miraculous things that most humans think are impossible. But it allowed me also to kind of stretch my assumptions of what I wanted to experience in the world so that I would be able to teach other people still more. Let's see what number 2 is. Number 4. That was number 5. Number 4 is going back to Neville Goddard. So I had a few years back stumbled upon Neville Goddard. Now I was very deep in my search for finding the truth with manifesting, and my experience was not matching what some of these teachers were teaching. Essentially what I had found was a trend was people were recycling the same content, and in fact I still see that today. People recycle each other's content. They put it to the test. A lot of it is true, but not all of it. A lot of limitations are spread. A lot of ideas that seem cool or trendy are what are just being taught one after the next, but they're not being questioned enough. And I understand why. And the reason why is because it's fearful to question beliefs, right? Which is why testing it, sometimes people get tight in the chest, or I don't want to prove this wrong or right. But I stumbled upon Neville Goddard and I found the technique of revision. That was the first technique that I had ever heard of. As soon as I found that, someone explained it to me, and I immediately said, screw this. This guy's insane. All these people are crazy. You cannot change the past, right? Now, this is based on standard law of attraction. This is based on vibration. This is based on physical laws of manifesting and emitting things. This is not awareness, which is what the truth or fundamental of manifesting is. So I didn't know that back then, though. I thought that it was all physical law, and I just went with mainstream law of attraction. But this was about 3 or 4 years ago. But the best decision that I made was, it was about a year later or so, when I was in tremendous amount of pain. My back was against the wall. I was in the jail system again. I was in trouble. All these things. My life had fallen apart again. And going back to Neville Goddard and trying his techniques finally, especially revision, which is what my last workshop was on. If you were in it, you can see how effective it is. But that was what changed my life. So thank God I went back to Neville Goddard, because the rest was history. So that was number 4. Let's see. Number 3 is destigmatizing myself, or having destigmatized myself from the concept of God. So I don't know about you. I don't know what your beliefs are. When I grew up Catholic, Roman Catholic, in New Jersey. And so what that meant in that area, at least, was that there were no miracles that existed now. If you could use a miracle or manifest a miracle in some way, then if you could find proof of it, then you would be considered a saint, like Mother Teresa. So the way that it was framed was that they don't exist anymore. They died off with Jesus, and that was basically it. And God was more of a dreary idea of God. I used to get sick when I heard the name of God eventually, because I realized all the stuff that I had read was a lie. But number 3 being having destigmatized the idea of God or the name of God, and being able to put that aside, and finally understanding what Neville was talking about when he says that God is your imagination. It's not a guy in the clouds. It's not what I thought that it was. It's not what mainstream thinks it is. It's not what all the Christians or any Christian in the world actually understands it to be. God is the imagination. God is the awareness of man, the I am of man in Exodus. And so when I took away the stigma of that is when my growth started to explode. That's when my mystical experiences, and even hearing the voice of God and manifestation after manifestation after manifestation, continued to grow over and over. So that was a huge stumbling block for me at first, but eventually I got past it, and now it is the cornerstone. And I have found the most absolute truth of manifesting comes from the mystical interpretation, not what we're taught in churches in modern era anyway, except for there's a few here and there obscure churches that teach things like this. But And basically just the idea behind it is that the Hebrew Bible, each symbol has its own elongated definition, right? An extremely elaborate definition, and oftentimes it has a formula. But so you take all the Old Testament, right? So basically each letter has its own sentence, and so think of each letter as a symbol in a word times all the letters in the Old Testament. So we're talking about infinite definitions, but when it was translated into English or even the New Testament, all that symbolism was stripped out of it, and each symbol was translated into a character. So you could say literally, and this isn't a conspiracy theory or anything, literally 99.9% of the Old Testament was cut out when it was translated into either Greek or even English, because all the symbols were removed and substituted for characters. So you lost all the symbolism. But what we find is when we look at the original, when we take a chart of all the meanings of all the symbols and we actually look at it, it's teaching you how to manifest. That is what the Bible is. It's not talking about some story or some historical knowledge. It's literally the formula to manifesting in the most systematic, accurate way. And so finding that and realizing that and keeping my mind open to that was one of the most powerful decisions that I ever made, because my power erupted and it finally was able to show me the experiences that I was having that no other law of attraction teacher could describe in any way. Most of them were limited. Most of them were very much carnal world, and not understanding that everything exists in a spiritual world, an awareness world. That was a huge step for me. So let's see here. Number 2. This is a big one. So when in the very beginning, when I started manifesting after the Bible, right? So the Bible I did for about 2 years. I started to get the hang of it very slightly, but nevertheless, I pushed aside religion altogether, all spirituality, anything having to do with anything Christian after the loss of my brother. I just said, this is ridiculous. None of this, what they're telling me, is true. I basically went from, but I remembered, like, I knew for a fact that manifesting was a thing because I had results. Nevertheless, what I did was I hopped very quickly. I was listening to 20 different people at the same time, searching all different things at the same time, reading all types of books, all types of this, all types of that, but never giving it a chance, a single teacher, a chance. So at first it was very difficult for me to see what was happening, to get any results, or when I did get results, I had no idea where the results came from. Now, I don't know about you, but I cannot stand hope manifesting. I do not hope manifest. In fact, faith for me is garbage. I refuse to go off of faith and hope that my manifestation is going to come. It must be based off of evidence. It must be based off of my experience. So eventually what I did, and this is one of the best decisions I ever made, was I decided to pick a teacher and actually stick with them. So for those of you who have been watching me for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, so picture this. This was what I did. I chose one teacher and I obsessively, mechanically, systematically tested and obsessed over that individual and all the teachings and put every single thing to the test for at least a year, most of them, sometimes more than a year. So I completely cut out all the other teachers. I would dedicate myself to one person, and with the fierceness and determination of my addictive mind, which is extremely addictive, I set out to prove true or false each teacher. So that means I was dedicated entirely, and this was one of the best, this is why it's number 2, it's one of the best decisions I ever made, because with that determination, because here's the thing, right? My story, maybe you can relate to me. I was in an extremely desperate place. I was literally going to die. I was homeless. I had no money, no friends. I was addicted to drugs. I had suicidal ideations continuously. I did not want to live anymore. I was up to my neck in trouble, in fines, in debt. I literally did not want to live anymore. And so the only chance that I had, I was suffering so hard. The only chance that I had was to figure out exactly how manifesting worked. Now, I was very blessed to have had a few mystical experiences and to have seen incredible miracles early on in my manifesting career. So most of the individuals that I came across, right, which is most of the law of attraction teachers, I'm sure that you've studied. I had right off the bat, I already knew by listening to what they said if what they were saying was true or false, because a lot of them imposed limitations that I had already broken down. I already knew that there was no limitations when it came to the things that they were talking about. And nevertheless, I studied them fiercely. I did everything that they said and more above and beyond in a very systematic way. And in the end, having done that, having gone through the most accurate, so to speak, law of attraction teachers or manifestation teachers, I finally came to where I found was the single most accurate manifestation teacher, which is Neville Goddard. And here's the thing. I did not find Neville and say, I resonate with this guy. I'm going to try what he said. It was that he was the last hope of finding someone whose experiences fit mine. And so in the end, it was a dead fit. That man is the most accurate manifestation teacher that there is, and he bases it off of the same experiences that I've had. I have had the same mystical experiences as him, and if you go into his teachings, you can find what those are. And all of the ideas such as awareness is what manifests, not vibration, not good mood, none of that stuff matters at all. It's all natural. It's all natural within us, right? But nevertheless, my point is, before I get carried away on that, is that doing that, systematically choosing and dedicating my life, my entire life. Now, I had nothing else going on with my life, so I was able to dedicate my entire life to this. And doing that with an obsessed mind. So the reason I asked you before, how long have you been watching me? How long have you been dedicating yourself to manifesting? How much effort have you been putting in a day? I would put in 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 hours a day studying, reading, testing, imagining every single person that you could possibly think of, but for long stretches of time, months and years at a time. And so that was a very big reason why I got to where I got today, and why I found who is correct and who is incorrect in their teachings. And finally, the last thing, the single most important thing that I've ever done is go about manifesting in a systematic, testing way. My background is computer science, mathematics, and physics. I have a very logical, pragmatic mind, and I do not do well with faith or hope or just good vibes and good feelings. I'm a very logical-minded person, and I'm not like a very like open spirit, happy, like let's see how everything goes. It's do or die. It's right or wrong. And so with that approach and keeping track of everything, after the 9 years that I've been testing this, I have now 9 years, a culmination of 9 years worth of notes, experiments, tests, mystical experiences, manifestations. I mean, I've got tens of thousands of manifestations that I've got logged in my journals. Mystical, I already said all that. But the point is that if I did not have that, if I did not go about that way, then I could have never proven it to myself. My experience must trump my beliefs. And in fact, I cannot go off of beliefs. Everything, and I believe that all things are possible because I have seen that all things are possible. But if I was unable to prove that to myself through systematically testing it with the fierceness as if my life depended on it, then I would not be where I am today. So I hope that these 5 different principles that I've set into my life were helpful for you to understand exactly my journey. I'm glad that you sat through and listened to this, and I hope that it gives you a little bit of insight and tips on maybe what you can do to help strengthen your manifestation game. The point is to stop hoping and wishing and start knowing that you're doing this properly. And so that's why I have had so much success with creating systems and predictable systems in manifesting because of this journey. So I hope that you take this advice. I hope that you take the suggestions. You can, and you will have as much fierce determination and belief in your own power. And it's not even belief, it's proof if you go through it the same way. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this, definitely subscribe for more laser-focused, systematic methodology in getting what you want. Hit the like button and stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for watching.